Hello and welcome. I imagine that you clicked on this video because you're having trouble with the Demon of Hatred. He's an absolute git, I'm not surprised. The good news is that even an average player can beat him, and I'm going to show you how, because I'm an average player. So, there are a series of attacks that are really the particular issue when you're dealing with this guy, and I'm going to go through those. I'm going to show you the failing at dealing with them, and then in the final kind of section of the video you'll see me defeat him. And how I did that, and how I navigated through those attacks. The Demon of Hatred is very much like a Bloodborne boss. The most dangerous aspect of him, his arm, is actually kind of the side of him you want to be attacking, or that's actually his weak side. The openings for you to navigate his attacks are there. So you'll see that in itself is what took me so long to figure out in defeating him. And once I figured out how to deal with his close quarter strikes, which you'll see shortly, you'll see me fail to deal with shortly, everything else became easier, because his big attacks like this are really, really well telegraphed, and they're just not that hard to deal with. You'll need Suzaku's Lotus Shield and Malcontent for this fight, so spend the time to upgrade them and get the bits and bobs you need for that. And so what we'll do is we'll have a look at the strikes that caused me the most problem throughout the fight, and you only ever get hit by one or two, but they just sap your health. So you have to be in close, obviously, and there, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to hit you with all of them, but that's nearly a third of my health off, and as you see, I just can't get past it. At this point, when I'm fighting him, I'm sensing that that's the correct side to be on, but I'm not getting the angle right. And what you'll see as the final fight continues, you'll see how I navigate that. It's just a particular angle you want to strike. He also has a charge move, which is an absolute bullshit. It seems to come out of nowhere. It's probably a good idea to turn the music off in this fight, because the perilous attacks, you can't actually really hear the attack, and it's difficult to see because there's so much colour coming off of his arm. Sometimes you can't even really see the perilous attack symbol turn up. So here's another one of his massive wind-up attacks. Now that only happens at the beginning, or begins to happen at the start of his third phase. He goes that massive perilous swipe. You jump over the first one. There is a second one, but and he charges through me there. But you can avoid that by getting just really close to him. So once you jump over the first one, you run towards him, you'll avoid it. So this is me kind of going into the fight. This is the one I win. I don't do it without taking damage or anything like that. I'm just average, as I said. So here's that series of attacks that avoid me. Just watch what I'm doing now. I'm just running slightly to the right of him and as close as I can to him. And as you'll see, I just don't take any damage. There's no requirement for me to get timing for his deflections. Although, as I say, I am average, I do make mistakes. And it just means that it's actually basically an attack that you just do not have to concern yourself with. Generally speaking, you kind of want to be at his sides or his back. Occasionally you'll jump up and do this. That's when you need Suzaku's shield. And when the fire is cleared, that's when you attack. And it does a meaty bit. I think it does the single largest amount of damage you can do in a single blow against them. There I managed to jump, and that's the key to avoiding his dash. When he dashes, you jump. If you're standing on the ground, you get millered. It destroys 3/4 of your health, or kills you outright, depending on where your health's at. But if you jump, it just kind of knocks you out of the way harmlessly. It doesn't cause you any kind of damage. There's another massive wind-up attack. I'm not going into those because, to be honest, they're so obvious, and they're fairly straightforward. You kind of want to get close, dodge left or right for something like that. Yeah, so here he kind of, obviously he's raging that I've slapped him about a bit. If you get too close, when he does that, when he kicks off, there's that shockwave, it knocks you on your ass. It doesn't hurt, but, there you go. And again, I dodged that by jumping. I couldn't get the timing for that in this fight for some reason. I think if you run left and jump as that long flame attack is coming down, you can then grapple to him. But I just didn't manage to kind of get the timing right. Again, shield, 0 damage, complete protection from fire, massive chunk of his health gone. Brilliant. Again, immediately pushing him. It's like any of the bosses in Sekiro, really. it's about you applying pressure to him. If you give any of the bosses room to manoeuvre and not respond to you, they will become very unpredictable to your eye and very, very, very hard to deal with. So the best thing to do is get right in there, right up his nostrils, slap him about a bit, be aware of... I didn't get it either. Be aware of the perilous attacks, and don't get too fixated on attack, and be ready to kind of dodge back if you need to, or jump away if you need to. And that's kind of it. I mean, he's not so bad once you realise you can avoid all those close quarters attacks, and his big attacks, each of these large attacks, have a fairly straightforward way for you to deal with them. And this honestly, that running around him like that is effectively for me was the difference between winning and losing this fight, because I just didn't take damage, any damage for the most part. I think I do once at the end of this fight, but I took almost no damage using that tactic. Now I've taken him down to the third stage. He's going to jump out with this massive perilous attack, jump over the first one, comes up with the second, but I'm already too close. It's all good. Just start slapping him in the sack. You can see that I've equipped Malcontent. I panic in this. There again, see I was on the ground and he dashed, wiped me out. He dashes over me again because he's a dick. So yeah, be remembering jump when you see that perilous symbol come up. So now I used Malcontent. I'm now going, oh yeah, I've got Divine Confetti. I only had one, so I thought I'd save it for the last stage of the fight. Divine Confetti is good, it adds a bit of extra damage, looks pretty. Yeah, so again, following that same tactic, avoiding all of those attacks, laying into them as much as possible. Now what I didn't do is switch back to the Suzaku shield, and you can see me panicking there if you actually watch. I'm trying to flick through the prosthetics. So once you've used Malcontent, switch back to Suzaku's shield, because it'll give you that option of dealing with that kind of AoE attack comfortably, and then you can then pick your moment to switch back to Malcontent, which is what I do here as we get towards the end of the fight. Yeah, so again, I think as with many of the bosses in Soulsborne games in Sekiro, this boss is about not being overwhelmed with awe at what a fucking mean looking git he is, and just taking your time. Even I don't think there's a single boss in this game that doesn't benefit from you just taking a breath and letting yourself recognise that there's always a way to beat them. And there you go, he's done. Even an average player like myself can do it, so go and get it done. Cheers.